In this video, we're going to look at working with some commands. And the first thing we're going to look at is determine what type of command. There's some commands you can do for that, which is the type command and the which command. And we're going to jump into looking at how we can get information, help information on our various commands. We're going to be looking at the help. And then we're also going to be looking at the hyphen help, which is a little bit different. We'll be looking at the man, the arpopos. I always have a hard time pronouncing that one. We'll be looking at info and the whatis. And then the last thing is we'll be looking at aliases, which is not really a help topic, but it is related to commands. Okay, I've logged into CiderMill and I'm at my home directory, and we're going to take a look at first how we can determine whether a command is an executable command or whether it's just a regular shell function. So what we're going to use is we have two commands that we can use. And we're going to look at first the type of CD, because CD is a built-in. And when we do that, it comes back and tells us CD is a shell built-in. Now, the reason this is important, of course, is because when it comes down to doing the help files, we need to know whether we're dealing with built-ins or we're dealing with shell functions, okay, or what they say, executables. All right. So that's kind of the two different things we're looking for. Now, if I do type ls, then it just basically says that ls is alias to ls color equals auto. What that means is that ls is an executable. It is not a built-in. So if I use the which command basically says where it's located. So if I go which ls, you can see it's located under user bin ls. That's where the executable file is located. If you went to that file, you would see this some sort of binary file. However, if I do the same thing with cd, in this particular server, it shows me this path, and this is actually a false positive on that. It makes it look like it's actually an executable, but it's not. In other systems, it can actually generate an error saying it can't be found. So type is really better for really finding out if something is an executable or not an executable. Now we want to get into the help files. So I'm going to go ahead and clear my screen here. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do help cd, because cd is a built-in. And when I do that, you can see I get some helpful information on the cd command. Okay, so that's all fine and good. I'm going to go ahead and clear that out, and I'm going to do help ls, and it says there's no help topics to match ls. Well, the reason is because when you write help like this, and then you put in the command name, whatever it is, if it's a built-in, it's going to have a help file for it. If it's not a built-in, if it's an executable like what ls is, then of course we've got a problem. It's not going to show up. So we have another command that we can do though for executables. Actually, we have a few. One of them is ls, and then we go hyphen help, and there's our help file for the ls executable command. Okay. Now the problem with this is it went all the way to the bottom. But let me just show you, and I'm going to show you how we can solve that. So let me just show you what we have when I try to do cd help. I don't get anything. Okay, it doesn't understand it. So a little confusing, but help first, that is for built-ins. And then where you do hyphen help, that is for executables. Now, as you saw when I did something like ls and I did hyphen help, it went to the bottom of the help file. And there's all this other information that I missed. Well, what we can do instead is, let me just clear this, is we can just do man. And then we can go ls. And what that's going to do is it's going to go ahead and show us the help file that it has. And then it's going to allow us to page down and page up through the information. So it's a little bit easier than just doing hyphen help. Okay? So that's pretty much how we can use the man. Now you also have some options that work with the man. Oh, by the way, just so you know, when I run that command, to get out of it, I press the Q to quit. And that's exactly what that green sign said right there at the bottom. Q to quit. Okay. So I can also go man, and I can, okay, there's other options too. I'll let you look those up, ls. And that basically is going to try to find everything with the word ls in it somewhere. And you can see we get a really long list, so it's not so helpful. So sometimes when you do that man k, it's not so great. But if you do man k like this, and then you do something like, say grep, then it's a little bit easier to work with because it's basically showing you, just a few of them. So if you have something that's real general, like ls, where it's going to be a lot of hits, then it doesn't work out so well. But for smaller stuff, it does. And also, these little ones and parentheses right here, it's just basically showing you what section that's going to be in. Man files actually put things into different sections. Like, for example, this up here, X content, that's in 5. This one's in 8. This one's in 8. And you can look it up in your book what the different ones mean. For the most part, I just type in a command and it takes me to where I need to go. Now, there's another one that we can use for man, -K, this shortcut. It's APROPOS. And if I do grep here, I get the exact same thing. So this is basically this apros. Anyway, this one right here is a shortcut for doing the same thing as man K. Okay, so that's the man. Of course, you have other options with that, but that's basically the man. Now we have another help command that's a little bit lighter. We have the whatis, and then we do something like ls. And what that's nice to do is it pretty much just shows us like a one-liner. All right, let me try whatis grep, and you can see same thing. So it takes you right to it and pretty much gives you like a one-liner of what that does, which is very helpful if you're used to these commands. You just want to see just a quick little thing on it, not the whole detail. Whatis is kind of nice. We'll do whatis for the cd command, and you can see that it says bash built-in command c -1, and then change working directories. So that's actually, it's just a little bit more condensed information. Okay. Then we have another one here called info, and I'll do info. We'll try ls. Okay, so I get a whole bunch of information there. Again, I'm able to page through it, but you can see on this side I have these little stars. Okay, little asterisks, I guess. You come down here and you get to one, and if you hit the enter key, it takes you directly to that section. So what info does, it kind of links you to different pages. Now you want to get back, you just hit the U key. The problem is it puts you to the very top of the page. You got to scroll down again. So if I want to go, say, to general output formatting, do that, enter key, and there it is. All right. So that is the info command and kind of how it works. Again, if you need a lot of details, that's if it's been written for it, then that can be helpful because it puts it in those little sections. So the last thing we have is alias. So let me clear my screen again, and if I type in alias, it gives me all the aliases that are set up for this system. So for example, LL right here is short for ls-l. Okay, so if I wanted to go ls-l, I get that structure. Let me clear it, and I go LL, I get the same thing. So what an alias does is it's basically a shortcut. And you can create your own shortcuts for your aliases if you want to. And so I'll do one for my name. So I'll do clear, and I'll do alias, and I'll do something like Scott, and I'll make that equal to CD there. So that'll take me to my home directory if I put in Scott. So I go ahead and enter that, and if you type in alias, you can see it's right there. And let's go ahead and take myself to the root level. Okay, so now I'm at the root level. We can see that by just seeing that. Okay, and then if I enter Scott and we do this again, you can see I went back to my home level. So that's all aliases do. They're really nice if you you have your own personal shortcuts that you want to set up. You just got to set them all up. The problem with alias in this context right now, with what we're looking at, is once I log out of this terminal session and log back in, my alias will be gone. So if you want to keep them around, you got to actually create an environmental file like a bash rc file, and we'll be looking at in a later video. So to summarize, we looked at the various commands that determined what type of command we had, which was the type command, which checks basically for what type it is, and that was good for determining whether it's a built-in or not. The which command displays the command path, but remember, if it's a built-in, it might show a path for it, which really wouldn't be true, so you'd want to use the type first. We had a couple of help functions. The first one was help, and then you give the command, and that's for shell built-ins only. Does not work for executables. For executables, you write the executable, first, like for example, we gave ls, then you do a space, hyphen help, and that will give you the help file for that. Remember though, this help file just gives you everything in one shot and takes you to the bottom of the page. To correct that, we have the man file. Okay, so if you type in man and then you type in the executable. Man, by the way, works pretty much for executables. Not so helpful with built-ins. Then it will give you it in pages. And then, of course, we had apros, or I can never get this right, and that's basically the same as man-k. It's just a list of appropriate commands based on its best match. We have the info command that, if you remember, displays the information but also has subsections that you can link off to read more information. And then we have the whatis, which is really just a nice little one-liner, a very brief description of what the command does. That turned out to be pretty nice. And last we have aliases that can create kind of little shortcuts for a command, any little personal shortcuts you might want to have. But remember that they terminate at the end of the session, so they don't stick around unless you put them in some sort of environmental file that we'll look at later.